Greetings, fanboys and fangirls. Jared here with another video review from Fanboys Forever. Today we're going to be looking at the brand new Flash Gordon movie 2-pack from Neca. Now, I do believe that this is a Walmart exclusive, at least for the time being, and this isn't so much as directly based on the old movie, but it's pretty well inspired by it. It's kind of hard to explain without seeing the figures. You get this giant, very yellow, huge box, and at the top you can see it's Flash Gordon versus Ming the Merciless. At the bottom just says Neca, and those are the two figures. On the side you have more of the name, and on the back you get some shots of the figures and a little bit about the 1980 live-action film. The one thing they couldn't get, as you can see obviously, is the likenesses, but we'll talk more about that in just a moment. At the bottom you can see the credits, and you can also see the barcode. There's some clasps here that are just velcroed together. I've already removed the figures from the box. And once you have it open, it folds out into something pretty impressive. You can see each flap has a picture of Flash and Ming, and this is just a really impressive presentation for the figures. It does also come with a little backdrop back there. It actually creates quite a fun little diorama of Ming's throne room from the film. And here's Ming and Flash integrated into that cool backdrop. So let's go ahead and talk about Flash. Flash was famously portrayed by Sam Jones in the old 1980 movie, and it's still one of my favorite comic book adaptations ever. Of course, the movie can be quite silly compared to the standards of today, but it was just such a different time, and what they were trying to do was just so campy and out there that I think that as the movie gets older, it can be more easily appreciated, and it's something that I really enjoy. So looking at Flash on his own here, you can see that he has a really nice head sculpt. They're just utilizing the old Defenders of the Earth, original comic book superheroes head sculpt, and I think it looks really nice. They've actually improved the process quite a bit for these latest releases, and we'll get more into that when we look at the comparison. Not only that, but Flash is wearing his movie costume. This is the outfit Flash wears when he gets to the throne room and they have the big fight. The music in that scene is particularly good, by the way. Of course, Queen helped do the soundtrack, and it led to something just spectacular. I don't think we'll ever hear anything quite like it again. You can see that he's got this interesting kind of logo on his chest here. There's definitely a little bit of a paint inconsistency there with mine. You can see that my circle isn't quite complete. I do believe it is supposed to be a complete gold circle, so that's just one little paint hiccup. Right here on the chest, it's very hard to see on camera, but you might be able to see a faint black spot or a faint dark spot right there on the paint. It used to be a lot more noticeable. I was able to rub a little bit of alcohol on that and kind of spread the paint and sort of get rid of it. It's a shame I had to fix my own figure, but I'm going to tell you everything that I had to do to a figure so that I'm not giving kind of a false narrative of what it is. The thing is, it was the only one at my Walmart. You couldn't even see on the inside of it because they had the security thing on it, and we all know how irritating that is. Moving on down, Flash has his ultra cool belt buckle right there. And he has, of course, just the bare arms for that outfit and his black pants and boots. On the back, you'll see the shirt continues. The really nice hair sculpting continues as well. So this is a very true to the film kind of outfit. It's not a true to the film head sculpt, but then again, Sam Jones looks a whole lot like comic book Flash, so it's something that upon first glance on a shelf, especially from a little bit of distance, you wouldn't be able to notice too much. I think the one thing that kind of holds it back from looking even more like the movie is just Flash's hairstyle. He's in more of a classical hairstyle here. If anything, this just kind of is a comic book version of the movie, almost as if the comic book character of Flash himself, that those same events of the film just happened to him. So I definitely like what they did. I think people were really confused and really distraught when they saw this for some reason, when they unveiled it all those months ago, and I was always on board with it. I think it's cool. It's just, I almost look at it like in the Batman Arkham games, how you have that unlockable Batman 89 costume. Well, that's not a Michael Keaton likeness with a suit, it's just their Arkham Batman character model, so it's comic book Batman wearing the suit. Here, I know there's no mask covering a lot of the face, but the same could be said in theory about this. That's why it doesn't bother me at all. And if they couldn't get the likeness rights, and obviously they couldn't, maybe somebody held out or something, I'm not really sure what happened, but it is a little strange considering that much smaller companies than Neca have been easily able to obtain the Sam Jones likeness rights. You have a very small company like Big Chief, who does the 6-scale Doctor Who toys. You have an even smaller company like Boss Fight Studios, who does those 3 3/4 figures that you've seen me review here on the channel, and they were able to get the likeness. So I don't know what happened. I don't know if it's because one of those contracts are like ironclad, but I have a feeling it wouldn't have been that hard to have attained. But hey, I am just happy to get this. Before moving on to the articulation, it is worth me pointing out another defect in this figure, and that is this kind of, I don't know, it's almost like some heat was on this piece of the figure here with this rubber overlay in the midsection, and you can see that it's almost kind of fried a little bit, so I'm not really sure what happened. But it's another little defect. It's not something that's super easy to see when you've not got a giant studio line on it because it's just the black pants. But there was just a lot of little hiccups, and it's something I've come to expect from Neca. I can hardly tell you the last time that I got a Neca figure that didn't have something going on, and that's a shame. These are just, you know, cosmetic things, but it's sort of unfortunate, but hey, you get what you can get, I suppose. It is worth mentioning it because, you know, this is a fairly expensive set. All right, so looking at articulation, you can see the head can go way down, way up. So there's plenty of great range there, so I like that. The arms can go out quite a ways. Now, this is one of those examples of a Neca figure where the arms feel really tight and a lot of their joints feel tight. But I didn't have any problems with joint tolerances, so that was good. Nothing broke like that. You can also bring it all the way around if you wish, and you can bring it up like that if you want to. So there's lots of good range there. He does have a swivel right there at the bicep. You, of course, get a double joint right there at the elbow. You can also see that he has a swivel and a hinge at both wrists. He has a really good diaphragm joint. He is able to go way low, just like this. Almost unnaturally low, but he can look way up, so that's good. You can also get it to go a little bit further back. So you can get something about like this, lean back, but it goes a lot more forward than it does back, unless there's maybe one more degree that I'm not pushing it to, in which case, who knows. There is a waist swivel right there. You can also see that Flash is very acrobatic. He can do the splits. Flash is also able to have a great kick. It's only inhibited slightly by those rubber trunks. You can also see that he's got a double joint right there at the knee, so that is very effective. He has a swivel up here at the thigh, but you can't do too much before it stops. He also has a swivel at the boot. There's a great hinge. There's an excellent rocker joint at the ankle, and you have a toe hinge. So pretty obviously, you're not gonna have any trouble getting those deep poses. He's gonna be able to be flat-footed, and he's gonna hold them no problem. So that is a big plus. Flash does come with a couple of accessories. You can see that he comes with the kind of orb thing from the movie that he uses like a football. And of course, he doesn't really come with a hand that can hold this thing. So instead, you sort of just gotta ball up the fist right here and use the elbow joint, and it works well enough, almost like Flash is ready to play some football with this thing. And that hilarious campy scene from the movie, I love it. Not only that though, but Flash does come with his gigantic sword from the movie. Now this is more of a mustardy looking gold right here. You can see the little star kind of sculpted right in. And on the other side as well, down here, we have the red handle. What's interesting is he comes with one holding hand, but it's not his right hand, it's his left hand. I'll be honest with you, I haven't looked at the reference material to check to see if Sam Jones was maybe using his left hand with the sword in the movie. I do find it to be kind of an odd choice though, unless that was the case, and you can tell me down below in the comments if that is so, but he does look really good with it. It just makes some of the posing a little awkward sometimes. I don't know why it would have been so difficult to have included a holding hand for the other side as well. Instead, we only get one alternate hand for Flash, and it is a fist for his left hand. So I'm not really sure what happened there, but either way, I think the sword looks really nice. All right, definitely time for a few comparisons with this new Flash here. Here he is alongside of the old Defenders of the Earth Flash Gordon. You can see their heights are almost exactly the same. They utilize a lot of the same sculpting with very little differences, honestly. The bare arms, and there's no overlay, of course, up here. The head sculpts are exactly the same. The big differences I'm seeing are the paint applications. You can tell pretty much right away that these two are miles apart, and there's two very different things happening here. This one is fully painted, and you can see that the face completely painted. It's just been shaded like that. But over here, we can see that there's something very different occurring, and it's more plastic with paint applications overlaid on top of it. So I definitely prefer this new method, and I think that that's just going to be something that's different to each individual person's eye. But this has kind of a pasty and artificial look. But then again, this is supposed to be based on a cartoon. This is supposed to be based on something a little more realistic. But it does appear that we're going to be seeing more of this method in the future. It makes the sculpt look a lot more modern, and it honestly makes it turn out a lot nicer in my opinion. So big improvement. And look what I've not opened yet. It's the new original Superheroes Flash. And you can see that this uses the same methods, but this time it includes a cowled head, so that's nice. And it's much more comparable to this. They're not exactly the same, but they're pretty similar. Flash is definitely a figure that I want to recommend. It's the kind of thing where I would usually say something like, hey, if you get to look through a bunch of different samples, be sure to pick the best one. But with this figure, I'm not really sure that's possible. We know that at Walmart, very frequently, things that are in their electronics toy aisle, and this is one of those things, especially if it's a box set of some sort, Walmart has the awful habit of mangling them with those huge security tag harnesses. You can't even get in there to check the paint to see what you think is acceptable and what's not acceptable for you, and that's a big detriment. So it's going to be really hard to check which sample is best because most of them will have that security thing on it. But if it's not, be sure to take a peek right there in the front of the packaging and make sure that everything is cool with your paint sample. Also be on the lookout for the rubber trunks piece right there because mine was mangled up a little bit. So unfortunately, there's some quality issues holding this guy back. Next up, we have Ming the Merciless. Of course, the late great Max von Sydow played Ming to perfection in the 1980s film. It does make me a little sad that Neca was not able to secure the likeness rights, but then again with Ming, with so many prosthetics and so much makeup and things being used on Max's face, it definitely ends up not feeling quite as tragic for that reason because his face was definitely covered up anyway. Looking at Ming, there's a lot to talk about with this incredibly ornate figure, but we will start with the head sculpt. This is much more in line with their comic book Ming figures, but it's done in, of course, a regular flesh tone. And he's not wearing any kind of hat or anything. He's just bald with his kind of Fu Manchu beard and mustache and all of that. You can see he has the more goblin-y ears. There's all sorts of little subtle wash work going on the face. His teeth are kind of funny. He kind of looks very goblin-esque. But yeah, I mean, it looks really fantastic. This is definitely the movie Ming that you remember. The outfit is as ornate as all get out. And oh my gosh, this guy over here looking like Holiday Barbie. Look at all this. You have this really crazy kind of sequins-like fabric that they're using all over the figure. It's this giant, robe. We'll avoid dress, I guess. This huge cape in the back. There's a ton of this stuff just all over the figure. What I really like are the two big sash pieces that go down over the main costume. And the rest of it is sculpting, including this really ornate collar. He's up in here looking like a Time Lord from the 70s. We have these kind of pendants and things. Sun logo, a dragon on the main piece. And then on the back, we have even more sculpting. On the arms, you just have their kind of thinner musculature there. There's some bands around the wrists. He also has his awesome ring sculpted and painted right there with his clawed looking hand. Nothing over here that we can see, but it's a really great detail for them to include here. If you take the robe and you lift it, you can see he's just wearing red pants. It's just kind of that basic muscled sculpture that we've already seen with Ming before. And he just has these little red Superman 78 looking boots. Definitely has that look to it, doesn't it, with the shininess and black soles at the bottom. Now, there's no kinds of wiring in any of this to kind of pose like the sash around in the front or anything. But I always feel like that you sacrifice a little something with that wiring because it makes all that puffy and they have to sew in like a big stitch and like place for the wire to go. Here, not a problem. It just kind of hangs naturally, drapes very well depending on what you want to do. Might have been nice to have had that wire in the back for the cape, but it's all right. Looking at the figure's articulation, we have a pretty good joint here, right here in the diaphragm. It can go really far forward and pretty far back, so that's nice. The head can turn, it can go up and down a little bit, inhibited slightly by the giant collar. Over here at the shoulder, you can see it goes up just about that far. You can probably push it further if you wanted to. It goes all the way in. You can bring it all the way up, and it can go all the way around. There is a swivel at the bicep. There's a double joint right there at the elbow. There's a hinge at the hand, and of course you can turn them. There is a waist joint, and you can turn it even despite the giant belt down here. With the robes, they don't really get in the way of articulation, so you end up being able to do a pretty good split, so the old man is spry. You can also take it way up for a great kick. Then he also has this kind of rotation up here at the thigh, and that's on both legs. You can also do a double joint right here at the leg. There is a cut at the boot. There is a hinge down here at the ankle. Plenty of ankle rocker, ankle pivot. There's even a toe hinge. And Ming can easily get those really deep poses, and you can just do all sorts of things with him. Now notice what I did there with the robe. You can kind of pose it around even though there's no posing wire in it, and sort of bunch it in different ways to where it looks like it's dynamically moving. And I think that's fantastic. If you just pose the head around here, do a little touch, and boom, it looks like he's looking right at you about to attack. He does include a few alternate hands, but that is it in terms of his accessories. He has this one hand where it's more of a grip. He includes a fist for his left hand, and he includes a pointing hand for the left with that cool ring on it. You know, he's just spectacular looking. He really is. I really ended up liking Ming a heck of a lot more than I did Flash. He's much more ornate, and it feels like an event that he's even in the set. But this isn't the first Ming that we've gotten. You can see here that we have our Defenders of the Earth Ming. It's really amazing just how much of the figure is reused. Sure, it is a completely original head sculpt. It is a different expression from the old comic book version. But you can definitely tell that they're the same guy, but with a different color of skin and not wearing the hat. What's funny is every bit of the other sculpting is retained for this figure. Even the sash and the dragon thing around his waist, the big belt, the collar around his head, the bands around his arm, the ring, everything is there. It's just that they've added some soft goods over it. So it is amazing just how much they were able to reuse from this guy while still giving the figure a completely different vibe. So Neca definitely knew what they were doing when it came to being cost effective with the figure. And I don't actually own any of the other versions of Ming that Neca's released, but I probably will end up getting those guys. As stated previously in this review, I'm not exactly sure what the deal was with the rights about the actors' likenesses. I'm not sure if it was a financial thing or if it was an exclusivity thing with another company. Either way, it didn't end up mattering too much with my enjoyment of this set, especially when it came to Ming. It seems that basically this is just supposed to be the comic book characters in outfits that are definitely inspired by the film. Obviously, Neca did receive the movie license for the costumes and all the visual elements from the movie, things like, you know, the weird football and the sword and Ming's costume. But they were not able to get those actor likenesses, but I think that it doesn't hurt the end result too much. Whether you want to get this or not greatly depends on your tolerance for some of Neca's quality hiccups. They are in the business of giving us kind of high-end collector things in concept, but sometimes the execution is done on the lower mass-produced end. And so what ends up happening is you're able to get a really nice collector's product that might have been manufactured in a way that maybe a less collector-friendly product would have been manufactured, but you get it for a cheaper price than what a lot of those would come for. We're used to, with Mezco, whenever you get something with a lot of soft goods and this level of articulation, sometimes those figures can go for anywhere from $85 to $115, $120. It is good then that we got this set and both of these figures for around the $50 or $60 mark, depending on where you find it. That means that I ended up walking away pretty satisfied, understanding that there's a big difference between the specialty market where you're paying that $90, $100 price tag. However, that still doesn't excuse little quality problems like the strange kind of melt or whatever it is going on the rubber trunks of my Flash figure, that weird paint issue. I still feel like that you deserve a product that is free from those kinds of defects, so it's still something that I would say to be cautious about with this set. However, though, if you find one that is in pretty well perfect production quality and it looks good to you, I say go ahead and buy it. It's a really, really fun set, even with minor issues. It's a great set for people who are big fans of the movie just like me, and was something that was definitely unexpected when Neca announced it. Alright guys, I sure do hope you enjoyed the review today. Of course, be sure to subscribe to the channel where I review He-Man, Batman, yes, some Flash Gordon stuff, as before I had reviewed the old 3 3/4 figure from Boss Fight Studios. I'm really hoping that the rest of those make it across the ocean pretty soon. Poor Boss Fight has definitely had their hands full with all sorts of delays in production because of the pandemic. I'd love to be able to review that for you very soon. Of course, be sure to like the video. It really helps us out, and it helps the algorithm, that wonderful algorithm. Share it out to all sorts of others on YouTube, so be sure to do that if you don't care. As always, God bless you and yours, and I'll see you on Fanboys Forever. Flash is alive!